Good morning. Thanks for joining us. We would like to welcome you to an administrator's overview of professional learning community, Emergent Literacy, Module 2, Phonological Awareness. Thanks so much for joining us. We're so excited to have you here today. Do we have a question? My name is Carly Willis with the Regional Educational Laboratory Southeast at Florida State University. Our REL Southeast team on the webinar today are Dr. Beth Phillips, Dr. Marcia Kasanovich, and Miss Sarah Hughes. And we would like to welcome everyone once again to an administrator's overview of professional learning community, Emergent Literacy, Module 2, Phonological Awareness. Oh, and we've got some Knowles fans. Thank you for joining us. We ask that as we spend our time together this morning that you feel free to use your chat at any time. We will be monitoring the chat and trying to answer questions as they come in. If we miss any, though, we will follow up with you after the webinar via email, so don't worry about that. We ask that you mute yourself unless you are talking to the group so we can limit background noise. We plan to present some information to begin with, but we'll spend most of our time in a breakout room at the end so we can all participate in a group discussion. We are recording today's webinar for those who wanted to be here but couldn't attend, or for those of you who are here but want to review any information at a later time. And all of the materials from today will be available on the PLC website. So if you aren't familiar with the REL program, REL stands for the Regional Educational Laboratories, and they are supported by the Institute of Education Sciences, or IES, at the U.S. Department of Education. The RELs conduct applied research and trainings with a mission of supporting more evidence-based education systems. There are 10 RELs across the country. Our REL is the REL Southeast at Florida State University. And the REL Southeast supports North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, and Florida. This is the REL Southeast disclaimer stating that we are not mandating that you use the information we share with you. We are conducting a series of 4 webinars for administrators, and the overarching goal of these webinars is to increase the understanding and use of the evidence-based emergent literacy and language instruction in preschool settings. So we're going to take a moment to remind ourselves of where we've been. If you think back, we conducted webinar 1 on December 16th, 2020, which was called Planning Emergent Literacy Professional Learning Communities in Preschool Settings. During that webinar, we shared the benefits of preschool teachers engaging in a professional learning community focused on emergent literacy, excuse me, and introduced the professional learning community emergent literacy materials that were developed by REL Southeast with a particular focus at that particular webinar on print knowledge. Most of our time during webinar 1 was spent on an open discussion about how the PLC materials might work for you and your context. We used a reflection guide to share our thoughts and ideas about how print knowledge is taught and how we might consider using a PLC in our context. We are hoping that you either participated in webinar 1 or that you've had the opportunity to review the materials that are posted on our website, which we show here. If you visit this website, you'll find the presentation from December 16th, as well as the reflection guide and video from webinar 1. So if you haven't been able to review that yet, you may want to do that soon. Okay, so where will we go today? Today is webinar 2, and the focus is on module 2, phonological awareness from the PLC materials. We'll also share ideas about implementing a PLC. Our meeting overview will include providing a brief reminder of the research and benefits of a PLC focused on emergent literacy, We will conduct a quick overview of the professional learning community emergent literacy materials. We will take a close look at Module 2 Phonological Awareness from the PLC materials, and we'll discuss how the topics presented today can relate to your context. Our intention is that after today's webinar, you'll have the motivation and the tools to create a team at your site to discuss the potential of implementing a PLC. At this time, I'll turn it over to Dr. Beth Phillips to talk more about the research and benefits of a PLC focused on emergent literacy.
Thank you so much, Carly, and welcome everyone. We're so glad to have you here today. Good morning. As Carly said, I'm Beth Phillips, and I'm going to share a brief overview today of research and benefits of implementing a professional learning community specifically focused on emergent literacy. Next. Okay, so let's begin with defining emergent literacy. The main idea that you want to take away is that emergent literacy includes the foundational skills that will support children's eventual mastery of conventional literacy skills of decoding, reading comprehension, and also writing skills, including composition and spelling. Of course, language skills are central to emergent literacy skills, and they begin developing right from birth. But they also benefit from intentional supports from adults who provide consistent and frequent learning opportunities to children well before the more formal reading instruction begins in kindergarten and beyond. One thing I want to note here is that in the way we've set up our terminology, emergent literacy is a little bit different than early literacy. Certainly, some researchers and educators use the term early literacy to describe what we're talking about today. And there's a lot of overlap in what is meant by the two terms. But for the sake of clarity, we've chosen to keep these terms a bit more distinct. In our labeling, emergent literacy does not include decoding or learning how to sound out words and reading comprehension, whereas early literacy does. We're using this distinction to point out that the expectations for what you would teach in a preschool setting are certainly not exactly the same as what you would teach in kindergarten, first grade, and beyond. The core components of emergent literacy are oral language, vocabulary, phonological awareness, and print knowledge. Robust research shows that children who learn these skills are less likely to develop future reading problems and more likely to learn to read with ease, understand what they read, and succeed in their broader schooling. So why do we care about this for 3 to 5-year-olds? Well, national research indicates major differences in emergent literacy and other language skills in children entering kindergarten. Unfortunately, these differences often continue into the primary grades. In fact, the 2019 National Assessment of Educational Progress, or NAEP, showed that on average, only about 35% of fourth graders were at or above proficient in their reading skills. Because so many children enter kindergarten with limited knowledge and skills, they're just not as able to take full advantage of the formal literacy instruction that begins then. So it is really important that young children engage in language and literacy experiences before kindergarten that provide a strong foundation to prepare them to learn to successfully read and write. So research tells us that pre-K and early childhood language skills are associated with better reading comprehension later in school. We have strong research evidence showing that the foundation for reading comprehension is established in the early childhood years through the development of expressive and receptive language skills, including vocabulary and grammar, and what we call code-related skills, for example, phonological awareness and print knowledge, including knowing the names and sounds of letters. Code-related skills in decoding are most important for reading comprehension when readers are just beginning to learn how to decode and read. But eventually, these language comprehension skills take over as being more and more important, assuming they have mastered the decoding skills. So taken together, these results suggest a really strong need for a broad focus on language in preschool-age children. Stated differently, this means that there's absolutely no reason to wait, and that one should not wait to focus on language skills needed for reading comprehension until children are already starting to learn how to read or already having mastered decoding skills. The longer you wait, the harder it actually is to make changes in children's language skills. So providing preschool teachers with opportunity to learn how to implement evidence-based language and literacy instruction practices that support these young children's literacy learning may help to strengthen their later literacy outcomes. Professional learning community, or PLC for short, is known to be an effective way to provide teachers with this kind of professional support. In brief, PLCs involve a group of educators who collaborate to expand their knowledge and enhance their instruction. Unlike traditional PD models like one-day workshops, PLCs provide an opportunity for teachers to engage with each other across time in a collaborative, mutually supportive environment. Typically, a PLC would involve a group of teachers that meet regularly to learn new topics, share ideas, celebrate their successes, and problem solve together. A facilitator or a group leader may guide the team in learning the new topic. PLCs have been increasingly used all across the world in recent years as a form of professional development. And research on PLCs does suggest that in many cases, PLCs can foster teacher learning and improve the professional culture within a school. Creating a professional culture that values early educators' knowledge and collaboration skills supports this culture. If you're interested in learning more about PLCs in early childhood, the REL Southeast last year created an informational interactive infographic that we have the link for on the screen if you're interested in taking a deeper look about PLCs more broadly. So some advantages of PLC models in general are that they add coherence and continuity and a set of community to this professional development environment. PLCs can foster teacher learning, improve the professional culture, and build sustainable professional relationships. Because preschool teachers can help build the foundation to improve emergent literacy skills, participating in an emergent literacy PLC to learn about these evidence-based instructional techniques makes sense. It's quite possible that these evidence-based practices were not experienced or learned by the teachers you may work with in their pre-service training experiences or in other previous in-service trainings. So our goal is to make this evidence-based material available to you and your teams at your fingertips. Several advantages of using the PLC emergent literacy that developed by the REL Southeast are listed on the slide. Importantly, the instructional practices discussed and practices elaborated on are evidence-based. Secondly, teachers can embed these instructional practices inside any ongoing curriculum. Importantly, the materials are free, packaged, user-friendly, and ready to deliver. There are embedded supports for a facilitator, including many exemplary classroom videos. So now Dr. Kasanovich is going to conduct a brief walkthrough of the PLC emergent literacy materials. Thank you.
Thanks, Beth, and welcome everybody. We appreciate your time and participation. I'm going to give you a quick walkthrough of the professional learning community emergent literacy materials that we've developed for your use. The professional learning community materials were developed in collaboration with the REL Southeast School Readiness Partnership, and it includes 4 modules. Module 1 is print knowledge, Module 2 is phonological awareness, Module 3 is vocabulary, Module 4 is oral language. Each module has 3 sessions for a total of 12 sessions. The topics of the sessions are the emergent literacy skills that preschoolers need in order to become successful readers in later grades. And you'll see the minutes here for each session. The first and second session for each module is 90 minutes, and the third one is 60 minutes. Each PLC session follows the same process or format for collaborative learning. To give you a sense of what the PLC session is like, I'll quickly review those 5 steps. So step 1 is to debrief, and this is where the participants come and talk about what they, what they read before they came to the session and things that they did before they came to the session. And then step 2 is to define and discuss session goals and content. So here the facilitator gives a brief description of where they've been and what they're about to learn today. Step 3 is learn and confirm, and this is where participants talk about what they currently do in their classroom and relate it to the new knowledge that they're learning in the PLC session. And step 4 is collaborate and practice. So here participants work in pairs, triads, and they practice these evidence-based strategies that they're learning in these sessions. And then step 5 is reflect, plan, and implement. So participants reflect on what they learned that day, and they make a plan for what they're going to do before they come to the next session. And then they go and they implement what they plan to do, and they come back and they start all over with step 1 and debrief about how it went. So each session follows this 5-step process. Each module comprises 4 resources: a facilitator guide, presentation slides, classroom videos, and a participant guide. And I'll briefly talk about each one of these. The facilitator guide includes a structured plan to deliver professional learning. It includes the slides and the speaker notes for the facilitator. It provides facilitators with a game plan for conducting each session. The intent is for the facilitator to review each session's content before the session and then use his or her own unique style to convey the information. This framework includes discussion questions, small and whole group activities for participants, and key points about each video. It's important to note that given the rich content of emergent literacy instruction addressed in these materials, that the ideal facilitator would be an educator with a strong background in emergent literacy and one who has good communication skills and the ability to relate well to adult learners. The presentation slides and speaker notes include obviously the slides that the facilitator can project during the PLC sessions with the accompanying speaker notes. There's important information for the facilitator under notes, and then information that the facilitator can paraphrase to convey the important points on the slide. The videos include classroom demonstrations and animations. So classroom demonstration videos show preschool teachers applying the evidence-based language and literacy strategies learned in the PLC sessions. And the video links are embedded in the PowerPoint slides and also found in the facilitator and participant guides. The participant guide includes the emergent literacy content and activities for participating preschool teachers. So it includes evidence-based self-study reading that participants will read before each session, collaborative hands-on activities, video viewing guides to help them process what they're seeing in the videos, experience sharing opportunities, lesson plans, examples and templates, reflection questions for discussion, additional resources for further study, slides with space to take notes, reproducible materials that participants can actually use in their classroom with their children, and glossary and references. And now Dr. Phillips will provide us an overview of the phonological awareness content from the PLC. So we just wanted to give you a taste of the content that preschool teachers would experience during a PLC session. So.
Thank you so much, Marcia. So again, as you just heard, there are 3 full sessions that focus on phonological awareness during the PLC. So all we're going to do right now is give you a little flavor of some of the content that's covered in several of these sessions. So during webinar 1, we provided an overview of module 1, print knowledge. So as I just said, I'll provide you a taste of module 2, phonological awareness. So the following are slides, videos, and activities directly taken from the PLC materials, and we share them with you so you can get a sense of the content included in the materials. So what is phonological awareness? It is an awareness that spoken language can be broken down into small units. Importantly, phonological awareness is an auditory or oral skill, so no print is involved. To teach and practice phonological awareness, children listen, speak, point, gesture, and manipulate materials. It is very important to keep in mind that although we are not teaching children to read in the conventional sense during preschool, we are building their emergent literacy skills so that when formal reading instruction begins, they will have the solid foundation needed to become successful readers. Phonological awareness is one of the precursors to, or part of the foundation of, becoming an expert skilled reader. Many years of research has shown us that if phonological awareness skills are strong, reading is likely to be strong. Conversely, if phonological skills are weak, reading is likely to be weak. Children's reading development depends in part on understanding the alphabetic principle, the idea that there's a systematic and predictable relation between written letters and spoken sounds. So children use phonological awareness, along with their print knowledge skills, to understand phonics instruction once it is introduced. If a child can hear 3 sounds in the word sun, then they will be more likely to be able to sound out or decode the word sun when they see it in print. So together with print knowledge, phonological awareness supports children in cracking this alphabetic code. These decoding skills then support the development of reading fluency, and reading fluency helps support text comprehension, along with children's language skills. Phonological awareness, of course, is also included in all the state standards for all the states within the Southeast region and throughout the country. This one pager is in the reproducible materials section of the Module 2 participant guide. It is a resource for teachers that we created for teachers to print and refer to as a quick reminder of these important terms. These words are all related because they represent important foundational skills for literacy. We created this resource for teachers because these terms can sometimes be confusing. It is important to understand their meaning as well as how and when to teach each foundational skills. So important for preschool are the concepts of phonological awareness, phonemic awareness, and print knowledge. Phonics is not taught in preschool typically. The important thing for you to understand is that phonemic awareness is a subset of phonological awareness skills. So phonological awareness is a broader term that refers to children's ability to understand and manipulate the sounds that they hear in words at lots of different sizes. So whole words or syllables or the first or last sounds in words. Phonemic awareness represents the ability to engage in these manipulation skills at the smallest level, or what we call the phoneme level. So as you can see on the screen, being able to segment a word like mat into at would be a phonemic awareness level skill. So I just was talking about different units of language. A unit of language represents the sound structure of language, like a syllable, a piece of the language that can be individually manipulated. This figure shows that developmentally, the progress in phonological awareness skills begins with children being able to more readily manipulate larger units of language, like the component words inside a compound word, like sunshine, and gradually moves towards smaller units of language, like the s, phonemes in the word sun. The largest unit of language in a word, in a language, would be those words. Something slightly smaller would be the syllables. Even smaller is what we would call onset rhyme, or the first or initial sounds before the vowels and the sounds after the vowels. And then, like I said, the smallest unit of language is the phoneme, or the individual sounds. There are 3 phonemes in the word sun. When we refer to phonological awareness, we're talking about all of these units of language. But like I said a minute ago, when we say phonemic awareness, we're only talking about those phonemes. Understanding the units of language helps teachers make instructional decisions about the phonological awareness activities they plan for children. Understanding that children's development typically progresses from larger units to smaller units helps teachers to differentiate instruction, individualize it, meet children where they are, and scaffold their learning for where you want them to go. It's important to understand that even though phonemic awareness does sometimes develop in children during the preschool period, and certainly having phonemic awareness is important when learning to read, preschool children are not necessarily expected to have this level of phonological awareness already. Now, Carly will share some more information with us about this phonological awareness continuum.
Thank you, Beth. Now that we talked about the units of language, we are going to watch an animated video that describes the 4 levels of phonological awareness and how children move through those levels. As we already mentioned, those levels are word, syllable, onset rhyme, and phoneme. And as you watch the video, I want you to notice how phonological awareness begins with larger units of language and moves toward smaller ones. So let's watch that video.
Phonological awareness is the understanding that speech can be broken down into parts or units of sound and the ability to manipulate those parts. Phonological awareness is an overarching term that is used to explain attention to and manipulation of the sound structure of language. Phonological awareness encompasses several levels. These levels are the word level, the syllable level, the onset rhyme level, and the phoneme level. The arrow across the bottom represents children's development of phonological awareness. The levels can be thought of as a continuum of learning. The levels of phonological awareness overlap in terms of when children acquire the skills at each level. This means that phonological awareness is not sequential, where children must master one level before moving to the next level. This idea is represented by the arrows overlapping on the phonological awareness continuum. Children may reach multiple levels of phonological awareness at the same time. This means that a child could be developing phonological awareness at the word level and the syllable level at the same time. Or it might mean that a child is developing phonological awareness at the syllable level and onset rhyme level at the same time, or any other combination. Picture cards and puzzles are often used in phonological awareness instruction and practice. At the word level, instruction and practice often involves manipulating individual words within compound words. For example, I'll say a word one part at a time. You put the parts together and say the whole word. Foot. Ball. What word? The child puts the 2 pieces of the puzzle together and says, football. At the syllable level, instruction and practice involves blending, counting, deleting, and segmenting parts of multisyllabic words or words with more than one syllable. For example, this is a pencil. Tell me each part you hear in pencil. The child responds, pen-sol. The onset rhyme level is a transitional level between phonological awareness and phonemic awareness. This level requires children to be able to hear and manipulate the onset and rhyme of a word. The onset is the part of the syllable that comes before the vowel, and the rhyme is the vowel and everything after it. So the onset of sun is, and the rhyme is un. To demonstrate phonological awareness at the onset rhyme level, children can match rhyme picture cards to corresponding rhyme pictures. The phoneme level may be the most difficult level of phonological awareness, and it is not expected to be well developed in preschool. The phoneme level is called phonemic awareness and involves manipulating individual sounds or phonemes in words. For example, tell me each sound you hear in the word toe. The child responds, t-o. There are important guidelines to keep in mind when teaching phonological awareness. Children will enter preschool with varying developmental levels of phonological awareness. So, it is important to determine where they are on the continuum. Instruction may not necessarily start at the beginning of the phonological awareness continuum for all children. Remember that the entire continuum does not need to be taught in preschool. You might teach different levels of the continuum to different groups of children. Growth is key when it comes to the levels of phonological awareness continuum. So, no matter where the child starts, it is important that there is an adequate amount of movement across the preschool years. To be most effective, phonological awareness instruction needs to be explicit and primarily delivered in small groups.
Okay, now that we have learned a little bit more about the phonological awareness continuum, let's practice some. We are going to practice some phonological awareness tasks, and I'm going to ask you to complete the task, and you can respond verbally or you can respond in the chat. But if you respond in the chat, just remember that when doing any phonological awareness activity with children, it is always oral. As you respond, I'll ask which level of phonological awareness the task represents. So then at that point, you'll respond verbally with word level, syllable level, onset rhyme, or phoneme level. Okay, so I'm going to say a word in two parts, and you'll put the two parts together. Dog, house. What word?
Doghouse.
Yes.
Doghouse.
Fantastic. Yes, it is doghouse. Great job putting dog, house together and saying doghouse. What level does this represent on the phonological awareness continuum? Oh, I've got some good answers in the chat. Yes, it's the word level. Thank you so much. Our next task is to look at this picture. And what is this a picture of?
Hamburger.
Great, thank you so much. It is hamburger. And now you can go ahead and tap or clap as you say each part that you hear in the word hamburger. So, hamburger. Yes. Excellent. Yes. Great job of saying each part in hamburger. Hamburger. Which level does this task represent on the phonological awareness continuum? And we already had some overachievers already answering in the chat. Great job. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Let's look at the words fox and box. Do those words rhyme?
Yes.
Yes, correct. Fox and box rhyme because they sound the same in the middle and at the end. Which level does this task represent on our phonological awareness continuum? Onset rhyme. Yes, we've got some early answerers. Good job. Okay, our final one. I'm going to say each sound in a word and you tell me the word. What word?
Sun.
Excellent. Yes, each sound in the word sun is Which level does this task represent on the phonological awareness continuum? Phoneme level. Yes, we've got some great participants today. This is a phonemic awareness task because I said each phoneme or individual sound in the word sun. So then you put the sounds together to say the whole word. Even though the phoneme level is not typically taught in preschool, some children may be ready for it, and therefore the phoneme level should be taught to those children. Okay, And now we are going to watch a video of a preschool teacher implementing phonological awareness throughout the whole day. As you watch this video, I want you to note the different settings in which the teacher incorporates those phonological awareness activities. And she's going to do that focusing mostly on word level and syllable level. So just notice that as you watch the video.
Today we're going to work with our syllables. Remember when you take two parts of the word and you put them together and it makes a whole word? If I say spider and I put it together, it is spider. Very good. Spider is spider. If I have monk and key, if I put it together, it is monkey. Monkey. Do you see the monkey? Yeah. If the beginning of the word is drag and the end is say drag. Say drag. Nope, say drag. Say on. Put it together, it is dragon. Balloon. Okay. What are the two syllables that you hear? Make way, yelled the limousine. The longest car you've ever seen. That's wrong. It's a limo. It's actually called a limousine, but we do call it limousine. Let's clap out limo. Limo. Clap out limousine. Three. Good. I see a lot of you are eating corn dogs today. Remember we've been talking about compound words? Is corn dog a compound word? Yes. Well, let's look. Corn dog. Put them together. What is it? Can you think of another food that might be a compound word? Think of a animal in our neighborhood that we could try stomping out. Emmy? A horse? We might have horses in our neighborhood. Let's do it together. You ready? Horse. Good. You can think of another one. An alligator. I hope it's not my front yard. Yes. Let's try alligator. You ready? Three. Oh, I hear four. Well, I hear 3 and 4. Let's try it again. Do it slowly.
Okay, so that is such a fun video, and I just wanted to point out just a few things about that video before we move on. You notice she focused on the syllable level and word level. During her small group instruction, the children were blending or putting together spoken words at the syllable level with spider, monkey. And during the read aloud, the children were segmenting the syllables in words while listening to the story, like limousine. And while waiting in line, the children segmented syllables in animal words like horse and alligator. And then at the word level, she tied that in during lunchtime, where the children blended compound words with corn, dog. So you can see that every minute throughout the school day counts. Transition time, dismissal and arrival time, snack time, recess, and even while walking in line. So using all moments of the day. Okay. At this time, before we move into our breakout rooms, I wanted to pause and see if we had any questions about anything we've discussed so far. You can feel free to unmute yourself or type it into the chat. Okay, if there are no questions right now, feel free at any point to type in questions into the chat box and we will answer those at our earliest convenience. Now we're going to head to our breakout rooms for deeper discussions about topics presented this morning. There will be a facilitator in each breakout room. So Beth, myself, Sarah, and Marcia. And your facilitator will guide you through a set of discussion questions about phonological awareness and your current thinking about potentially bringing the PLC emergent literacy to your setting. So a note taker will be in your breakout room to capture the main ideas of the discussion. And after about 35 minutes, we will be sent back to the main room with the whole group. And once we're back, each note taker will report any highlights from the discussion. When you are prompted on your screen, just click accept to be sent to a breakout room. And then, of course, you'll also want to accept to come back to the main room. Nathan, can you send us to our breakout rooms?
All right, I think we're all back.
We're good.
Good. Okay, thanks, Marcia. So welcome back to the main room, everybody. I hope you had some good discussions, and I think it's important to have time to reflect and to find out what's helpful in considering implementing the PLC at your site. So you'll see that I've pulled up our shared document right now. So let's start with the breakout room, Sarah's breakout room. So Sarah Herrera was my partner, and do you want to just quickly share what we discussed?
Sure. So some of the things that caught members of the group caught their attention was the idea that students learning at different paces and levels. In particular, the idea of the continuum order really stood out, with some members noting that they were actually taught to start at the phoneme level as opposed to the word level. So it was good for that clarification for them. Making the connection between alliteration and rhyme with onset in rhyme was really helpful, and linking to information that teachers might already be using will help them in recognizing when they're actually using, with the PA instruction. The idea that PA materials don't need to be visual, that they could just be oral, was something that members got out of today's presentation. In terms of talking about what things were going on at sites, we had some notes about some programs may not have formal learning goals, and so maybe have like creating some of those around the programs would be helpful. Most states have standards that include PA instruction already, so just reiterating that. And some of the materials that are often used in the PA instruction and site include word study kits, environmental sounds, audio tapes or videos, or just teachers using everyday objects. The group discussed that they thought teachers who were newly assigned to pre-K would be interested in implementing a PLC focused on emergent literacy, as well as veteran pre-K teachers, interventionists or literacy coaches that may be in centers or programs that are occurring at public school settings. Some members talked about generating interest by discussing how these materials could be used to develop lesson plans and activities that are tied to the standards and curriculum, and that lead teachers or a program director may be interested in facilitating these sessions.
Thanks, Sarah. All right, let's move up to Beth and Felisa's.
Great. Well, we had a really good group. We spent a lot of time kind of discussing the first two, as you can see. So we kind of went on talking about a few things on our last question, but some of the highlights that kind of kept coming up that I wanted to share is that just like Sarah reported, we did have that the continuum visual was extremely helpful, that it was really great to see how the skills are separated, but also kind of layered on top of each other, but also the ideas of listing and differentiating all the fonts, all the P words. So they thought that was extremely helpful during the presentation. And the note that it was important to learn or just kind of reiterate that PA, how it is directly tied and related to students' reading ability later on. In terms of what's going on at the site level, some of the comments that we received were that teachers just really definitely seem to be struggling and in need of more support, and that support can be regarded in terms of awareness when it comes to phonological awareness, helping build their understanding, and then also what does PA instruction and implementation actually look like. So getting back to the fact that this is something that is orally presented, there's no reading related to that. So that was something that came up and we talked at length about in our group. And for the third question, so looking at who could implement this, kind of who could generate interest, we kind of started talking more so about barriers, kind of what could lead or why would teachers kind of be hesitant to implement this, or what can kind of just stop them. And the idea of just that teachers may be really keen on sticking to their curriculum and finding it very hard to implement any supplemental instructional material or any extension. So simply because they may feel that it doesn't align very well. So they just may have some difficulty kind of deviating from the norm and trying to find time to implement any of these extensions into their class. So really great discussion with our group.
Thanks, Lisa. That's
You're
great.
welcome.
Oh dear, we have been, okay, let's see. So Carly and Lindsay. Try to get it on one, here we go.
We actually had a very brave soul, Lisa Blanton, who took notes and is going to report for us.
Okay,
Take it away, Lisa.
All right, I'll do it. So under the first column, our interest was again the continuum, the visual. We thought it would be was very supportive and helpful for all the teachers and the people in the group as well. We talked about how PLC is targeted and helpful for administration, who also have a huge responsibility in making the PLC successful. We talked about the videos that were applicable and meaningful and how important that was. And we talked about the PLC website and how we are appreciative to know that that's there for our use at any time. So under the next column, let's see, what was that? Our
oh, sorry.
Share our phonological awareness at what we do at our sites. So some people are using resources or curricula such as Haggerty and creative curriculum and other things that incorporate or includes PA in their naturally and throughout the day and with learning goals. Some are implementing across the day during instructional times as well as non-instructional times. And the videos help for the opportunities that we need to look for as admin. We also thought about how PLCs are a great way to constantly remind the teachers to keep incorporating it throughout the day, such as when that video that you showed, or you guys showed us about the teacher going throughout the day with hers. Thought that was just a PLC, a good reminder. The last one, we talked about focusing on research to show how emergent literacy has an impact on reading and even graduation. For us here in South Carolina, it's third grade reading specifically, and of course even up to graduation. It includes, we were mindful to include all the staff, including the assistants, because of the huge important role that they play. South Carolina has also, we had someone representative there from the state who has said that they have made available all of the all the modules that you guys have done, and given all of us here, districts, everybody, the opportunity to ask for support and help to get PLOs started and going. People talked about how it's important to have teachers of mixed ages to enhance the discussion and make everything kind of run smoothly. And then somebody talked about a pre-K boot camp for teachers, where they are going to share examples of effective teaching from each module throughout the month of June.
Great. Thanks, Lisa.
Sure.
All right, and last but not least, we have Marcia's group. And I don't want to assume that Jennifer's going to be the reporter, or is she? She is. Okay.
Yes,
Yes,
I'm going
thank you.
Okay.
And what I'm going to do is just a lot of the ideas that were already discussed, we also talked about in our group. So I'm going to just pick out a few of the highlights that maybe hadn't been brought up in the other groups. So for the first question, one of the things I don't think I heard mentioned was that they liked that the video had a clear explanation of the difference between phonological awareness and phonemic awareness. And then we did bring up some of the other comments that were brought up from other groups. For the second question, multiple people talked about encouraging preschools to use small groups, especially for students who appear to be struggling or not making the same progress as their peers. So there's definitely talk about doing different types of instruction in small groups, which is great to hear. There are several curriculums being used that have PA embedded. And one in particular they mentioned where the teachers are provided with videos of SLPs actually teaching the skills. So they have a model of what that instruction should look like, which I thought was great. And then in terms of who would benefit, I don't think I heard this mentioned yet, but we did talk about the benefit for pre-service teachers possibly being exposed to this while they're still in their college program or pre-service program. But really anyone who's teaching and might have students that are either at the developmental level where this should be learned, or even who are behind and much older students who might need those skills boosted. And then in terms of generating interest, we talked about from a state level perspective, they could push out the PLC as a continuing learning opportunity through their listserv and social media outlets. And from a district level perspective, they mentioned looking at their district level data to see where there might be deficits in skills across students in the district and maybe pinpoint those particular locations for this sort of professional development or continuing learning opportunity. And then in terms of who could facilitate, I think this was already mentioned, but mainly the thought was literacy coaches or lead teachers.
Great. And I'm just picking up on your notes here about including kindergarten teachers in PLCs. So I know that came up in our group too, just in terms of thinking, kind of expanding beyond just the pre-K teachers, because they're something that came up in during our breakout session was that this might be an interesting kindergarten year because of COVID, that a lot of students did not attend pre-K because of COVID, or that they were in remote models that maybe, didn't provide them what they needed. So we might have a really interesting kindergarten year. So I think that could be an opportunity to kind of, for kindergarten teachers to take a step back and say, okay, well, what do I need to shore up in terms of some of the things that are covered in the PLC. So thank you very much, everybody, for your great ideas. And I'm going to stop sharing, and Marcia is going to pull up our other slides. Switch it. Thank you. All right, great. So we're hoping that the PLC materials will be used by educators and leaders like you. So at the beginning of this webinar, we shared that our intention is that after this particular webinar, since we're in our second in the 4 series, that you'll have kind of the motivation or the interest in exploring this a little bit deeper and use some of the tools that we've provided to create a team, or to even explore creating a team at your site to see kind of what the potential is for implementing the PLC. And we actually heard some ideas that are already starting to emerge from the breakout. So we'd like you to invite you to take the information you've learned and talked about today back to your site, discuss with staff to determine who might be interested. And if there's enough interest generated, feel free to use the reflection guide that is posted on the website to discuss implementation and next steps. So during our next webinar, we'll have time to kind of debrief about the discussions that you might have had at your site so we can problem solve together, kind of figure out what some of the challenges might be, and then share ideas for successful implementation. So Carly started us off talking about where we've been. So let's talk about where we're going. So where we're going to kind of, what's kind of coming next. So there are 2 remaining webinars in this series of 4. So during webinars 3 and 4, we'll share discussions that may have happened at your site to figure out what went well and what you need some ideas about. And we'll also dive deeper into the PLC content and materials during webinars 3 and 4. And just as a reminder, webinar 3 is going to focus on vocabulary and webinar 4 on oral language. As we continue to move forward, we invite you to visit the PLC website for all of the PLC materials. And we have the link there, and I don't know if somebody can throw that in the chat. We're going to be throwing a lot of things in the chat, but just be patient. But this is the website that we've all mentioned a million times that kind of has everything in one place. And when you go to the website, you're actually going to find 2 tabs at the top. One tab is with the actual materials. The second tab is for administrator materials. So these are things like the reflection guide that we discussed during the breakout sessions. We also invite you to share this information at your site and take a look at the optional self-study that we described on slide 41. And we also definitely invite you to register for the administrators webinar 3. And the date is to be determined, but you can kind of mark in your calendar that it's going to be in August. That's sort of the trajectory about how we're going to be going forward. And before you go, we appreciate your time and participation today. And we're always trying to enhance the experience for everybody. And it's really important that we hear from you so that we can incorporate your thinking into the next webinar as we go into webinar 3. So the link to the survey should be in the chat. And I'm going to give everybody a second to actually click on that link so that it's up in your browser. And we're going to pretend that we're all together in a large conference room sitting at round tables. And we've all just gone around and handed you the survey. So we're actually going to pause for a few minutes, maybe not a few minutes, maybe just a couple seconds, but we're going to pause and let you get that started. But we really do encourage you. We take your feedback very seriously. And we appreciate all of those. For those of you who participated in webinar 1, we took all those ideas, we had a debriefing meeting, and we incorporated that information into webinar 3. And there's a question that I don't want to ignore. Hold on, sorry. The question is, do you recommend that we attend all 4 modules before facilitating a PLC? And I'm going to throw that over to Marcia and Beth and Carly.
It's not essential, it's just helpful. I think it's just, but Beth, please chime in. It's not essential that you do that, but because the materials are there for your use and they're pretty explicit and organized. So no, we're just trying to support any administrators who might be interested in it to learn more about it.
But yeah, so we certainly would not want to stymie enthusiasm. So if there's an opportunity over the summer to get people going, we definitely not want to have people slow down. But we would ask is that if you get started over the summer, that it would be particularly important for you to then try to make the time to come attend the next couple sessions so you can share what's working, and that there can be peer support from those of you who have started things to facilitate that conversation and help launch more PLCs across the region in the fall. But certainly if you have an opportunity over the summer to get started or even to get started with the planning and the facilitator training and those kind of pieces, please go for it.
And I'll only add one additional piece is the good news is when Marcia, Beth, and Carly developed the materials, they were they were thinking about what module 1 should include. So module 1 actually includes a lot of the kind of anchor pieces with regard to the effective strategies. So it feels like that's doable, starting with module 1, even if you want to look at it all now. Great.
The one thing that I would say is that there was a rationale for the sequencing of the modules. And so that we would encourage people to use them in order. There are references in later modules to things that are discussed in earlier modules. And so it's not, no one's going to come and take your materials away. You skip around. But the sessions in each module are in a particular sequence, and the modules in a particular sequence. So we would encourage people. We think it'll just go more smoothly if people move in order. And so that way you might start and get launched on the print and phonological awareness sessions, and maybe be synced up in timing with when we talk about the latter 2 modules later on, depending on how quickly you want to move your teachers through things, certainly. But we envision these being the kind of things that you would repeat with different groups of teachers across time. So launching a first group this summer does not mean that you might have later groups in the future that you would then bring your accrued knowledge from the next 2 sessions for future instantiations.
Great. Thank you. So I think on behalf of the team here, thank you for your time and attention today. And just as a parting message, I'd say, as you continue to follow health and safety guidelines, also remember to take really good care of yourselves. So make sure you're eating healthy food, getting outside, taking a walk, but take good care. And thank you very much. And we'll see you in August.